Everybody, welcome. This is a What's New in SQL MI. I have 90 minutes of content that I will deliver to you in 40 minutes, which means I will be talking very slowly. All right, so with that, zovem se Niko. Niko. Radim u korporaciji Microsoft. Ja sam upravljač programima. Ne govorim srpski, ali malo učim. Moj tim je pun ludaka I mnogo ih volim.
That was absolutely great, Niko. Perfect.
That's all Serbian I could have learned in 6 months. Okay, I have a couple more bonuses. Hopefully I will not miss them. So no introductions. Niko, my name is nobody. That's the message. Okay, all right. So agenda for today. Introduction, app modernization made easy with Azure SQL managed systems. Yes, I'm kind of a marketing guy. No, I'm not. So before going any further and showing you the great stuff we delivered just like 4 weeks ago at Microsoft Ignite in November of 2021, I just want to show you how much my team has delivered in the 12 months before that. Then we go into 3 categories, basically an overview of what was achieved. Hybrid flexibility, higher performance and scalability, and the modern security. Before we go into any of blah, blah, I just want to make sure that we're all kind of aware of what am I talking about. Azure SQL. You might have heard that we, Microsoft, have this concept of Azure SQL. That includes infrastructure as a service, which are the regular VMs. I mean, they're not that regular. They're not kind of like your grandmother VM that you might be running on premises because we give you so much extra value for the VMs on Azure. But that's infrastructure as a service. On platform as a service, we have an Azure SQL database, which comes with a couple of flavors. The traditional one, a pre-provisioned one. The serverless, which can scale up and down and even suspend auto magically. And then we have something that we call hyperscale architecture. Azure SQL database is something we believe that the newest application, the cloud-born application, are best for. And then we have the central offer, which is an Azure SQL managed instance. That's best for modernizing existing application and very, very high compatibility with existing SQL Server. And you, of course, when you choose one, you trade kind of like familiarity versus flexibility. That's the story. On the deployment, because I will be mentioning some of this stuff, I just want to give you an overview. We have 2 service tiers. General purpose, which provides you a reasonably fast remote storage with the build high availability. You can say it's a kind of a failover clustering in a way, and you can get up to 16 terabytes in general availability. And then on the business critical workloads, we have a fully fledged synchronized availability group on steroids on some editions with 4 replicas. And we just announced that you can have up to 16 terabytes of storage for it. And then all the possible stuff, different hardware options. We'll take a look at them in a second. So modernized SQL Server application on Azure. If you are looking for the maximum SQL Server compatibility, as I mentioned before, you should be considering us the managed instance. I mean, not just because it's being developed in MDCS in Serbia, but and this is a Serbian event, but the kick that you can get out of it is that it's evergreen version of SQL. I'll put it in a different way. If you like spending nights being awakened when the server goes down, if you spend your time installing, deinstalling, and reinstalling, if you just get absolutely you excited by just patching SQL Server and dealing with all the consequences and downtimes, please do not consider managed instance. That's not for you, because you will get automatic patching, security updates. You will never ever have to care about the further upgrade. We will take care for you. That's part of our offer of a managed service. And if you want some newest and Azure only features, like the integration with some different services, you should be considering managed instance. Industry-leading high availability, which is backed up which is backed up financially with the SLA. You can get the premium support. You'll get opportunity to use some services like advanced threat protection, and you know, wherever your business go, you can do it in Azure, because we have so many regions and new are constantly coming up. On the architecture, I just want to mention that I think in MDCS we kind of a little bit crazy about security. It's the whole worry of your data being yours and your data being safe. So whole design, and just a reminder, when you deploy managed instance, by default, and the initial design of the managed instance had not involved a public endpoint, you would not be able to connect it freely from anywhere. You would need to be at least in the same VNet. So it's kind of like a recurring topic that I will be coming over back again during this presentation. So how were 12 months before the last Ignite? In the second half of the 2020, we delivered 11 updates for managed instance. It's kind of like bam, 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 unstopping. Some of those upgrades were connected into supporting new features like distributed transaction, which is was a long time request from the customers. Others were introducing some performance enhancement. And if you find some older blog, which is, you know, screaming and crying that the performance of the managed instance on these or that are wrong, you know, time has been passing and we have been improving some of the stuff. So just be aware. Then the 6 months, the first 6 months of the 2021, a lot of security connected features, a tighter integration with the Azure Active Directory. And as you can see in some of the announcements, it's a major topic for us. Granular permission for data masking. I will highlight one thing I really think you should consider is the Azure Monitor SQL Insights that was introduced in March of this year, of 2021. And it's one single place where you can monitor your SQL servers, SQL Server with availability groups, Azure SQL databases, and managed instance. You need to set up a couple of the things like the log analytics, but it's a single place where you can have a monitoring of your assets, and managed instance is one of the key supported features for it. Log replay service, etc., etc. You can read, and I will share the slides at the end. So in the end, in the last 12 months before the Ignite of fall 2021, we delivered 25 major updates. That's more than 2 updates per month. And at this point, you should be like raising your hand, maybe be like, Nico, let me see. 11 plus 13, that's 24. How can you work in Microsoft if you cannot do a basic mathematics? Well, sorry, I have forgotten, because I mentioned just the 6 months of the 2021, and my dear colleague Uroš pushed this feature in September out. We are compatible with Terraform. So you can now deploy and configure managed instance with the Terraform. If you're not aware what Terraform is, you should be considering it. It's a great way of deploying and configuring your Azure assets. Okay, that's enough. That's 10 minutes of introduction. You might be like, when is this coming to the real new stuff, right? Hybrid flexibility. We introduced a great new feature. This feature is called Managed Instance Link. This managed instance link provides you a capability of connecting any SQL server to managed instance. You can run it on premises in your own data center. You can run it on Azure SQL VM, or you can run it on any other cloud for what it matters. You can simply establish a connection to managed instance. And you're like, okay, that's great. Like amazing scenario. How can I benefit from it? What is it for? So we enabled two key scenarios at the moment, and more will be coming in the future. First of all, imagine that you're running your workload, let's say in Northern or Western Europe, and you have a new customer that wants to read some of your data or all of the data with Power BI reports, but they are located in Australia and they're concerned about the latency. Not about the replication latency, which is a different topic, but the latency and the impact. If you give them access directly to your primary replica, you will be hammering your own primary workloads. Maybe your writes will be delayed. So you will want to offload it. And how can you offload it? Of course, you can build a Azure SQL VM in Australia data center, be awakened every couple of hours, care about the synchronous or asynchronous aspects of it. Beautiful. But you can simply go and start up a managed instance in Australia and establish a link. And we will do all the necessary work for you. It's just a couple of clicks. The other scenario that we enable is when you want to migrate to Azure. We have already in preview a great service like log replay service, which is a kind of a log shipping for those of you who are more database administrator minded, but it's not online. Yes, you can replay multiple backups, but with this feature, the managed instance link, you can migrate almost online. What does it mean almost? It's always a huge topic. I'm not a marketing person, so I'll tell you, it depends on your workload. Of course, you will need to suspend it, but the failover, would you like to see it? Okay. I assume yes, even if I do not hear your answer. Okay, so here I have a SQL server. You can even notice that it has a number of 15. Yes, it's 2019 with a couple of patches. Then I have here a managed instance. Let me just zoom in. My zoom full, so-called, is struggling sometimes. So SQL Server and a managed instance. Let's connect to SQL Server and create a database. I will create the one I will call SQL demo. I will modify the data file, be a little bit bigger because I will write some data into it. The same I will do with the log file. Then let's check it out. I have here finally a database. On managed instance, I have no database at the moment. Then I need to do a backup. Please, friends, let's be, friends and never do a backup to the same file in the temporary folder. Do not overwrite. Do it in a safe way, etc., etc. Compress your backups, right? So I do it just in order to be able to establish a managed instance link. Why do I need to have a full backup? When you create a availability group and a modified version of distributed availability group is what is powering this managed instance link. So let's go. I have server database requirements, some availability group requirements. Like, don't worry, don't write down the trace flags. It will change. It's currently in the limited public preview. I need to sign into Azure. I'm doing this. I already signed it. Then I will obtain my subscriptions and list of all my managed instances. I need to establish a link. So I will need to find this one in my subscription, and then I can establish a link. Let us hope that the demo gods will be kind to me, because it's kind of like it taking more time than usual. So let's select the right resource group. I have selected one, and yeah, here we go. That's the right one. I need to log into my managed instance. I have the credentials already saved. Next, I can specify some of the stuff, like if you have multiple IPs and some of them are used for different purposes, you can specify the name of the availability and distributed availability groups that will be built over to create this link. And then clicky, clicky, draggy, droppy, clicky, clicky, linky, ready. You got it, as they say in America. I have just created a distributed availability group, actually, an availability group, and then a distributed availability group that will be established and replicated to managed instance. How much time will it take to appear? I don't know. Let's click a refresh. Wow, it's already there. Okay, that's not bad. Let's try it out. Let's connect to it. Let's select the server name and make sure that, well, that's my server name. That's my cluster name. That's a unique identifier. And then database windows.net. That's kind of like, let's check if the database is available. Ouch, it's in read-only mode. Why? Well, if you ever run a availability group, you know that you have one primary replica where you can do reads and writes, and the secondary, they are in read-only mode. So it's correct. Let's see how fast it works, how fast it's replicated. So let's switch to the database, and let's create a table there. I'm just making sure that the table is not there. And after that, I will do simply in this fake table, like without a transaction, I will just punch transaction into it. And let's go to the managed instance and run the query, which extracts the maximum number, like 4,900, 6,400. So it's replicating. It's not bad, right? So let's stop this workload, switch back to managed instance, and see how much time it will take to finalize. Let's click, stop, switch, run. It's 18547, and it didn't change. It's constant. So of course, do not take this just word from me. If you have 160 cores and you running 160 core SQL Server on premises hardware with super fast storage, and you fired up a 4 CPU vCore managed instance and it's slow, or if your network is slow, don't come to me. Don't ask me, because I will send you to read the documentation or taking some basic SQL Server course, right? You need to have the balance of the hardware. So with that, you see that replication works really interesting. Let's do the next thing. Let's do a finalize a migration. That I do the right click, select the Azure SQL Managed Instance link, and migrate database to the cloud. You do not have it on your management studio currently because we are still not even in the public preview. So I'm signing into my Azure account. I don't need to select my managed instance because I already have a link there, right? Next. Then I can choose if I do a planned failover and I need to confirm that the workload has stopped, or I can do, like with availability group, a forced failover. Like, I don't care about the consequences. I'm smart, you know, or not. I hope to be smart, and I know all of you are people are very smart. So please do the right failover. So I will do a planned failover. I'm selecting a current option of deleting this availability and distributed availability groups. But if you want to reuse them for any purpose that you know that they will serve you, feel free to maintain them, not a problem. And then we will switch the asynchronous replication between the distributed availability groups to synchronous, and then we will verify on both sides log sequence number to make sure that the right information is replicated. We'll do up to 3 attempts currently. If the first one is successful, the second and the third are not needed, and then we do the failover, and voila, or as we say in Portugal, Pimba Jose Carlos. Um, it's done. Now my database has become read and writable on Azure SQL Managed Instance. I did a failover. So I can run my full workload now on managed instance. That's how easy potentially your migration to Azure can be. All right. I know that we have a time for the questions in the end, so let's wait. Or feel free to write your questions in order for them to be like already visible and for the fast answer. If you go to AKMS MI link, as you can see, and I will drop it right now in the chat, you can sign up for the limited public preview. I'll give you just a little advice. Write a good business case. Don't write like, oh, my grandmother would love to see me being cool person, and I would love, bring some interesting case, because a couple of hundreds of people probably already before you did this, because we already talking, well, 1 month later, and there have been a huge excitement about it. So just be aware, just saying. With that, how does this link work? So we create an availability group, and then over it, we use the updated and newer version of distributed availability group to replicate from your SQL server running anywhere into managed instance. You will need to establish currently a managed instance for each of your databases. So this is slideware. I'm showing you what I told you. You can use the managed instance link for doing a read scale out, and you can place it in any of the regions. And you can connect your managed instance to Synapse, Power BI Analytics, but whatever, Azure Data Factory, maybe to read this data and integrate with your enterprise data warehouse. Or you can use this for easy migration to Azure. We allow you to consolidate using multiple servers and create the managed instance link into a single managed instance. Or if you're running 160 CPU vCores VM, you can split your workloads in your databases, for example, into two 80 CPU vCore managed instances. And from the same server, you can spread out to a different number of managed instances. Here are the links how you do this. You have a basic link with the article and description already in the chat. And with that, I want to go to the next one, to the hardware performance and scalability. So will be talking about the hardware generations, larger instances. I'll show you the results because in these 40 minutes, it's kind of like, it's tough to show you the demo. You have to trust me. I'm kind of sorry for that. And I'll show you the test results. So customers were requesting for a lot of different things. Currently, we have some of the coupling between the number of CPU vCores and the maximum storage you can use on managed instance. So the customers were asking for more memory, faster CPU performance, more storage, and better CPU vCore to reserved space ratio. We have addressed them all. We introducing the new hardware generation. Current hardware, previously called Gen 5, we have renamed into standard series. It has a kind of mix of several Intel CPUs like Broadwell, Skylake, Cascade Lake, with CPU frequency speeds between 2.3 up to 2.5 gigahertz. The new generation, which we call premium series, it has a 2.8 gigahertz of CPU frequency. It has the AVX 512. I love AVX CIMD extensions, especially for the column store indexes. There are some scenarios where you can get a huge performance boost. And it's an Ice Lake series of processors, the latest third generation Intel Xeon Platinum. By default, we expect at least 15% a typical performance just on the Azure compute numbers improvement. Key thing was on standard series that we are giving 5.1 gigabyte of RAM per vCore. And database workloads, they want all the memory you can throw at them, right? And with 80 cores, the current, as of today, maximum offering that we do for the managed instance, it's 80 times 5.1, 400, a little bit over 400 gigabytes of RAM in total. The premium series gives you 7 gigabytes of RAM per vCore. So it's kind of like some improvement. But we're also introducing a large instances, or we call it publicly premium series memory optimized. It's 13.6 gigabytes of RAM per vCore. Even though currently it's kept only for 64 cores, not 80, because those 64 cores are pretty fast and it's 2.5 times bigger memory, you can reach almost 900 gigs of RAM on those instances. It's a big, really big amount of memory. It also allows the customers to lower their spendings. You don't need to buy that many cores to reach that amount of memory, because in a lot of workloads, CPU is not precisely the king. The random access memory, the RAM, is what will define the speed of how fast you can process the data. We announced the general availability on the general purpose 16 terabytes. Just a reminder, you need to put at least 2 data files because our current remote storage caps the maximum size of a data file on 8 terabytes. Some people ask, well, oh, and what about the log file? It's still 2 terabytes as in any SQL server. With that, we announced a 4-time increase for the business critical. So now we are offering 16 terabytes in some regions, and on a weekly, monthly basis. Just take a look at the documentation. It changes. My slides, when I show you the regions, are wrong. There are more regions already 1 month later. So we also did a 33% improvement. If you are running with 24 cores on business critical, premium and premium series memory optimized, you can get 2 terabytes for 16 cores, which was not and is not available for the standard series. So that's a really very significant savings. And it's not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. Just stay tuned. We're going to rock you in the months and years to come. So we did some cool improvements just to know that the backup running faster with less impact. And don't forget the data file size on your general purpose instance will mean the performance, the better performance. But not only the maintenance backup that we managed backup that we do for you runs faster. Also, if you are using the copy only backup extracting to a blob storage, it will run faster as well. So that's a really nice under the hood improvements we did. Another one, we are building the replicas for the business critical service tier. If you remember, we run 4 replicas much faster. So if you have just 1 replica, your data is still available, but you can read. There is no high availability. And it's not happening on a regular basis. It's a disaster. Dozens of engineers probably are already being awakened, and our leadership is already like asking what happened with our offering. But traditionally, we would build 2 instances in order to have 3 availability group replicas to declare it available. Then you can do the read, writes, and failovers. Then we would build the 4th one. The improved replica build is when there is just 1, it's still read-only, but we will build just the next one, really fast focusing. And once we have 2 replicas, it's already in the availability group, it's already available. And we allow you to run the business. Then with full speed, we will build very fastly and intensively the 3rd one in order to be able to patch you and still guarantee the high availability. And then we will do a slow governed build of the 4th one, which is kind of a read-only replica, which will impact your business less. So it's a small, nice key improvement that we have delivered. Just a review, I'm sorry, my slides, when I transfer them into this design, they got a little bit unformatted. I'll give you the key message. The premium series and the premium series memory optimized, they're more expensive, but we believe that we give you significantly better value on every single instance. And it's not the end, it's just the beginning. Don't take a picture of this. This is wrong. This is already wrong. We have more regions already available with the newest series. So what we have seen with the new premium series, that it gives you 20% lower latency on the business critical and 20-30 lower latency on general purpose, with 40 and even 40-60% better throughput for TPCC, OLTP, kind of like a website performance. And if you go compare it with the new memory optimized premium series, this is like, it blows my mind to show you these numbers. It's 2 times lower latency even on the remote storage. And it's up to 3 times lower latency for business critical. So it will blow you out of the water, as they say. 2.5 times better throughput in our TPCC test. We don't fake them. We see the pattern, we show you. Will your workload automatically be that faster? We don't know. Try it out, experiment, run it, compare it. We believe it's a great, great offer with a huge value. So on the TPCH, I took a 300 gigabytes database. I ran the query. It's a TPCH query. I just limited the result to top 1 to focus on the sheer performance, not on the data extraction. And I changed the data, not 1 year of data, but 20 years of data. That's it. So running this query, and here's execution plan, on standard series took 49 seconds. It's nice. 6.2 gigabytes of memory grant, and it was a lot of TempDB spilling, almost 700,000 pages. When we went to the premium series, we got more spilling in more iterators, but it was less spill, almost a third. And we went from 49 to 43 seconds. Are you ready for the results on the business critical? It's all the same 8 CPU vCores. Pimba Jose Carlos, as I say in Portugal, 18 gigabytes memory grant from 43 to 22 seconds. No more TempDB spilling. Will it work for you the same? If you have memory grant problem, check out the memory optimized premium series. And other queries will also work faster. If you don't forget, if you do not have enough memory for your queries, you will get a timeout. If you are a developer, you'll get a simply timeout because there were not enough memory to grant the query to start running. And typically after 30 seconds or any custom value you might be using in your apps, it's a timeout. And your customers on the web apps will not wait for 30 seconds. I know I don't wait for 30 seconds. So just to, it's a basic stuff for any DBA. You get more memory, more queries can run in parallel. It's not like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. These are big queries with 3.5 gigabytes every single grant. But think about hundreds and thousands of them. That will make a huge difference. With that, let's talk about the modern security. We have already a great story with Azure AD having a password, universal with multi-factor authentication and integrated. But it's not enough. Some applications cannot use Azure AD. And we heard it constantly from the customers. So let me show you just a demo of one little thing. Here I am on my management studio. And here I am connected to my managed instance. It's a regular managed instance. I can do whatever I want. It's all regular replication. Let's reconnect to it, okay? So I am connecting to it, and it works. Did you notice how I connected to it? Did you? Like really? Like, let me do it slowly. Let's zoom to discover that I'm connecting using Windows authentication. Yes, it's a big a breaking news in a way. We have now enabled an Windows authentication currently in limited public preview. You need to sign up for it, and you can run your old application. You can even run with double hopes. It's supported. And I heard from some customers going like, really, how did you do that? I mean, I didn't do that. From the PM side, I know that my colleague Sergeant Bozovic, he has led this effort. So just to show you, we have done a huge change. So we support the Windows authentication for a platform as a service offering. That's the only offering that I am aware of that you can do the Windows authentication. Do not expect the others to do it. So it's another additional single sign-on option. And I won't go through the setup. I'll just explain you that you will need to sync your Active Directory running on premises or on Azure VMs into the Kerberos realm in order to authenticate to your managed instance. So basically, you will send an encrypted Kerberos token to managed instance. The managed instance will exchange this encrypted Kerberos token for Azure AD token and thus authenticating the user. That's how it is conceptually can be explained in under 30 seconds. Another option, we have the Azure AD only authentication in general availability. It means it's fully supported, available for production workload. If you know, I'll tell you a story. So when I work on the customer side, like probably many of you, I saw some of my customers sharing system administrator password per email for the SQL logins. And if you want to disable it, and you go and set up a Azure AD admin for a managed instance, you can then force Azure AD authentication only, and your SQL logins will stop working. Doesn't mean it should be a goal, but we are a company which drives you into a more secure space. We call it conceptually passwordless, and it will be a significant step into the right direction. Don't forget that we also now enable you with the usage of the Azure AD policy to set up maybe a whole resource group or maybe even all managed instances within your Azure subscription will have to use Azure AD only authentication. It's a good option. You should check it out. With that, we also enable the usage of the managed instance links or linked servers with the support of Windows authentication. So you can connect to your managed instance and hope, and kind of way, do a double hope to a different managed instance, which of course should support the Windows authentication as well, but you can do it. And with that, we also now enable you the managed identities. The same code you would use to set them up. Don't forget the SQL trust groups. The same you will need for the distributed transactions, which we actually put into general availability on Ignite. What you will need to specify for the managed identity is just the authentication with the name of the identity. Easy stuff. You can also use now a user-assigned managed identity. You just flip off to on and add your managed identity, select the primary, and your managed instance will run with this managed identity. It will allow you to do the private access to storage for backup and restore scenarios, for bulk insert or open role set, maybe storing the audit, and overall, you can start accessing your Azure Key Vault with a managed identity. That's a very, very important key scenario that a lot of customers were wanting. The last thing I will tell you today, and as we are finalizing, is the service endpoint policies that my colleague Zoran Rilak helped on the programming side to push into the production. So service endpoint policies is basically the control. Currently, we allow you to do export the data from managed instance to any storage account, anywhere, even on the other subscriptions. With service endpoint policies, you can change this, allow all outbound for transaction replication, log replay, audit, backup, restore, whatsoever. You can specify saying only this storage account, only this resource group, storage accounts, or only storage accounts within this subscription can be communicated from your managed instance. It's a little but very easy to set up and activate on your subnet feature, which is absolutely critical if you care about security. And in the public cloud environment, in the modern times, you do care about the security. So these are all the announcements we did and Ignite. And I just want to mention one that kind of went under the radar, but I think it's totally worth checking it out. We started allowing you the mobility between the subnets, so you can move your managed instance from one subnet to another. Some restrictions will apply. Sign up for the previews, please. And with that, I say hvala puna, and I'm ready to try to answer your questions if you have any.
Hvala tebi, Niko. Thank you, Niko, for your
Nema no
presentation.
čemu.
Okay. Okay. For the audience, any questions? Imate li pitanja, pošto vidim da ništa tokom sesije nije upisano u chat prozor, da li bi neko možda želeo da se uključi glasom i da postavi pitanje?
People like, that hurts, Miloš.
Okay. Some other type of question, maybe? Neko drugo pitanje? Ukoliko ne, ja bih se zahvalio Niku još jednom i vama naravno na pažnji. Mi ćemo sada preći na jednu malo dužu pauzu za ručak i nastavit ćemo sa programom u 13 časova i 30 minuta. Umeđu vremenu ćete moći da vidite i slajd sa agendom. Niko, thank you once again. It was great having you here on Sinergija. We hope we will be able to be your hosts in the upcoming Sinergija events in the future years. Thank you once again and all the best. Bye bye. Prijatno. Do 13 časova i 30 minuta.